Welcome back to AllTheMons. I'm Bumstar and I've got some good news. The pack just updated to version 1.0, and with that comes a brand new endgame system, the Pika Star. So instead of pushing for the AllTheMons Star, we're going to be shifting our goal to crafting all the regional Pika Stars, which will eventually allow us to unlock and catch legendary Pokemon and even work towards the Shiny Pika Star. To do that, we're going to need to automate some very specific resources, including high-tier Pokeballs made from AllTheModium, Vibranium, and Unobtainium, along with their ancient variants. So, in this episode, we're going to start building out that automation. We'll be tracking down tumblestone from the runes, figuring out how to automate it, and then setting up the full production chain for these endgame Pokeballs. I also already set up automation for the AllThemodium Pokeballs between episodes, so I'll show how that works, and then we'll use that setup to build out the Vibranium and Unobtainium versions. This took me a really long time to figure out. By the end of this, we should have a solid foundation for producing everything that we need to start working towards our first Pika Star. So let's get started. So what we need to do today is we need to find tumblestone, and we need tumblestone because in order to make the ancient balls, we need tumblestone poured over the AllThemodium ball lid to make the ancient AllThemodium ball lid. And then for further crafts, it's going to require even more. And then if we want to make the ancient master ball variant, we're going to need all the tumblestone for that as well. So to find tumblestone, you need to look for runes. So we're going to use our explorer's compass. Now we want to come down to the Cobblemon source runes, and we have a ton of different runes here. And luckily, if you go to the Cobblemon wiki and look at all of the different runes, they tell you which ones drop specific tumblestone. So we're going to start heading around and trying to find each one because there's 3 different variants and we need all of them. And since we're going to have to travel around a ton and look for these runes, I figured I would craft the Unobtainium jetpack because it's a bit quicker than Creative Flight. Creative Flight is super nice with our pylon, but this jetpack is just so much quicker. It's so quick, in fact, that the chunks can't even keep up with us. So I don't know if it was worth it, but it was easy enough to craft. Alright, so we're at our first runes, and this one here is the Desert House rune. You can tell because there's a granite wall sticking out of the ground. So what we're going to want to do is dig up a bunch of sand. Let's go ahead and hit shapeless. And we're looking for the suspicious sand. And from this, we'll get quite a few different things. And of course, what we're looking for is a rare spawn. So we might be brushing for a while. And one of the things you can do to make this easier is just start breaking blocks that aren't the suspicious sand. Oh, is that it? Oh, that is. Okay, we got our first tumblestone. Perfect. I feel like that was really lucky to get that on our first rune because it's a rare spawn compared to absolutely everything else. So now we need to move on to our next rune. Alright, and it looks like we are at our next rune here. And this is the Desert Tower rune. From this one we can get the Sky Tumblestone. So we're just gonna do more of the same. Is that it? Oh, let's go. Okay, cool. So we're at 2 out of 3. We're just looking for one more. And since we've been having such good luck with desert ones, we're hitting the Desert Town Center ruins. This one has a rare chance to give us black tumblestone, which is the last one we're looking for. Alright, so it doesn't look like I'm getting the black tumblestone out of this one. I've got a lot of suspicious sand and not a single one. So of course we couldn't go 3 for 3. So let's move on to another rune. So this one that we're looking for is called a Unstable Cave rune, and supposedly it has a chance to give us 3 black tumblestone. And I think this is pretty much it because there's some chests down here. It looks like the unstableness of it kind of already happened. So we're going to go ahead and just use our power of Ultimine and try and dig this out till we can see all the suspicious sand. Yeah, right, there's a couple of them. Oh, please tell me. Oh, we got it. All right, we've got all 3 of our tumblestones. So well, I'm going to finish looting this up and then we're going to head back home. So from what I understand with tumblestone, it grows on magma blocks. So if we just take this tumblestone and right click it on the magma block, we're going to get small skystone tumble, small tumblestone, and small black tumblestone. And then just over time, these will grow. But luckily, we have growth accelerators, and I want to see if growth accelerators work on this. So unfortunately, it looks like the tumblestone is not affected by growth accelerators. So we're going to have to do this manually, and this is going to be a bit of a pain, but I have an idea on how to set this up. It's going to be slow to start, but we'll speed up a ton later on. Luckily, you can just break the small buds to get the tumblestone back. So for the idea that I have, we're going to need to upgrade our Just Dire Things SKU. And we're just going to go ahead and upgrade it to Shadow Pulse because we have everything we need to do that. And we now have our Shadow Pulse SKU. So now we're going to process some diamonds. And while we're at it, we'll also do some netherite for some other things to Just Dire Things. Diamonds get us Celesta Gem. And netherite gets us Eclipse Alloy. So we're going to make ourselves a advanced block breaker. And then I believe we're going to need the advanced clicker. But I'm also going to make the advanced block placer just in case we need that instead. And while we're looking at Just Dire Things as well, the Eclipse Alloy Paxel is an absolute fantastic tool to make. It uses energy instead of durability. It has a ton of awesome upgrades that you can add to it. Things like smelter and the 7x7 block breaker and instant break and tree feller and all of these different things. It's a really solid tool to have. Just the pickaxe, axe, and shovel to make the Paxel. And there we go. It fills up with energy and it'll replace our refined obsidian Paxel. So we're going to go ahead and set up this tumblestones automation in here with our foundry because we just kind of have a bunch of empty space around the edge here. And I think it might look nice through the window. So we're going to go ahead and set up our magma cubes here. And we're just going to use one side for now. We might use 2 later on. But as these progress and start duplicating, we'll go ahead and fill up the edges here and maybe fill up the top here and just kind of have it lining the windows. Alright, so I had to do a bit of playing around, and it looks like, once again, we're going to have to use modular routers. Speaking of which, I did have to change our bees over to Super Factory Manager, because our modular routers were just not keeping up with what we needed. So, yeah, that's set up with Super Factory Manager now. This is our code that we're using. But the block placer and the clicker both weren't working to place these down. So I'm using an activator module with a range up augment, just a single one, telling it that tumblestone is what we want. And we're doing the down face, so it's placing it right here. So that's probably what we're going to do. And then we're going to set up the advanced block breaker. And we want an allow list in here of only the tumblestone clusters. If you don't put anything in here, or you put any of the wrong things in here, it'll break everything that it's around. So let's turn this render area on and let's go ahead and move it over here and put a pickaxe in here, and that's how you can test to see if it's going to break anything else, because if we turn this to deny list, it's just going to go ahead and break whatever's there. But now with the allow list, it'll only break these 3 items. So let's go ahead and bring that down and let's just spread it around this entire bottom row here. So it's going to break everything that's right in this row, just like that. And as you can see, it is not breaking this medium tumblestone block because it'll only break it once it's fully done. Then we're going to go ahead and set up this interface here. We have it connected to a wireless connector. And we're going to set up an item collector on it. And we're going to tell this item collector that it can only take tumblestone, like that. And then we want to render that area. We want this area to be pretty much this entire back end here, just to make sure that it's collecting every piece of tumblestone that gets broken. So there we go. That's our item collector range. Any tumblestone that is dropped over here is going to be picked up and thrown into our system, like this. Go on instantly. We come in here. Our tumblestone is right here. But now we want to tell our interface that we want to keep tumblestone in stock. We'll keep that as the singles. So then anytime we have tumblestone in, it's going to always just make sure there's at least one here. And then we just want to set up some modular router poolers to pull from the interface, because then it'll place it down on these mega blocks. And now we have this automated. The last thing that we need to do is put a pickaxe in here. But I don't want to just use any regular pickaxe. I want something with a high level of fortune, because from what I understand, tumblestone is completely affected by fortune, so we can get a ton more if we have the highest level available to us. And to make fortune, we're going to use our mystical agriculture enchanter with all the experience essence that we have built up and all the extra gold that we have. So I'm just going to make an absolute ton of fortune 3 books and break them all down and combine them together to make the highest level of fortune that I can. And just like that, we should have our fortune 7. Perfect. That didn't take too long, but a decent amount of experience. We're going to go ahead and use a Eclipse alloy pickaxe. And I guess we should probably put the fortune on that pickaxe. And one of the cool things about these Eclipse alloy and the Celestial Gem tools is that since we're putting it inside a breaker that uses power, it'll just use the power to keep it charged at all times. So our regular tumblestone is almost done. So while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and set this up a bunch more times all around the room here. So as we get more and more, we can just keep the automation going. All right, so that took a little longer to set up than I thought and a bit more than I thought it would take, but I think we've got this sorted. So we're using the same idea, but instead of using the polar module to the interface, we have a modular router here for each type of tumblestone that is using the distributor module, and it is pulling the tumblestone from here. It'll fill up this buffer. Just black tumblestone seems to take longer to grow than the other ones, but it'll fill up this buffer, and then we're using another distributor to then distribute it out to all of these in the row. But we do have a regulator augment in here set to 1, so all the tumblestone will stay in here. So at most we'll have a stack of 64 in a buffer at a time, and then it will spread the tumblestone out. As you can see with all of these, it'll spread it out and only keep a single module or a single tumblestone in the modular routers. So after a bit, as these grow, we'll start getting more and more. But for now, this is how I'm going to automate tumblestone. I'm sure there is a much better way to do this. This doesn't seem like it's the most optimal thing in the world. The only other thing I have to do is add the advanced block breaker for each one of these rows, and make sure the item collector is reaching. So yeah. Alright, so it looks like the item collector will encompass this whole room. So let's go ahead and see if the block breaker will too. Yeah, perfect. I don't need to do more than just these two. This will also do this entire room here. And with it just set to only mining the tumblestone and only picking up the tumblestone, I don't have to worry about anything else being janky with this. So perfect. So this is how I'm going to automate tumblestone. I definitely think there's probably a better way to do this, but this is what I could just come up with on the fly when my just dire things idea didn't work. That means it's time to move on to automating our Pokeballs, and more specifically, the Vibranium and Unobtainium balls. So let's go take a look at what I have set up for AllTheModium. So when setting up these Pokeballs, I wanted to try and use create as much as possible, while using a little bit of mechanism to just make our lives easier. And then we also need to use productive metalworks, and this is definitely not optimal. I didn't need to make it this tall. I could have made it a little wider and been fine. So I have it split between the two sides, and every single one of these processes is completely automated with pattern providers. So this isn't just running non-stop. I'm not constantly getting Pokeballs, but I can request the craft to get them going. And I had to use some barrels and modular routers to set this up, but it's working pretty flawlessly. So I'm going to go ahead and request 100 AllTheModium balls so we can see what it does. So the first step over here, you can see that sending in the ball bases, and now each one of these is being fed the materials to create that into the actual mechanism. Over here, it's cutting up the apricorns. And then if we come over here, this is filling up with Allthemodium and it's pouring it onto a blank ball lid, which we have set up from before. And then that ball lid is being stamped with the bits. Then over here, this is processing the apricorn wood for the wood balls, so we don't need that right now. That'll be for the ancient ones. But then here it is finalizing the step to craft the ball and put it together. And every single one of these is set up in a pattern and using a single pattern provider for each one. I was trying to set it up so it was using multiples, but then the items were getting kind of backlogged within the oak barrels. And same thing with the modular routers. I had to use 2 at an absolute minimum. Trying to use a single one for even just one process here was not working. And I'm sure that didn't make a ton of sense. So that's why I'm going to show you step by step on how to do this with Vibranium and Unobtainium, because both those processes kind of have to go together anyway. So the first thing we're going to put down is our stamping factory and our lathe factory. And then we just want to go into the setup here and set input to front, output to the left towards the lathe. Make sure to turn auto eject on and make sure our energy is coming in. And for our lathe, we want to do the same thing. Input from the right and output to the front with our auto eject on. Make sure energy is there. And we're going to place our pattern provider here, put a barrel underneath, and then put a modular router here. And this is kind of the setup we're going to be using for every single pattern that we set up here. This one only needs a single modular router, but you could do 2 if you wanted to. So right now what we're making is the Vibranium ball base. So we need to have this set up right here. So we're going to be making Vibranium plates, sending those plates into the stamper machine to get the stamped Vibranium plates. And then those will be sent to the lathe to make the Vibranium ball base. So we want to set up a pattern that says send a Vibranium plate and make sure it's on the processing pattern to get the Vibranium ball base. Even though we can't just go right from a plate to a ball base, this is the pattern we want to set because this is the item we're sending in and this is the item we're getting out of it. Go ahead and place that into our pattern provider for now. And then we just want to set up the modular router. So we want to pull from the barrel, then we can put that puller in here. And then we're going to say send to the stamping factory at the front because that's where we have our input. And then we want another puller to pull from the lathe and then send that item back to our pattern provider. Just for efficiency, we'll go ahead and use a second modular router and we'll just take the last 2 here that are pulling from the lathe and sending to the pattern provider and putting those into this bottom modular router. That way, if we have a large craft going, things aren't going to get stuck in here waiting to be pushed out. As always, put some speed upgrades in your modular routers to just make this process a ton faster. It's not necessarily needed, but it's there. And then all we have to do is connect that to our system. And if we come into our Vibranium here, Vibranium ball base, we can go ahead and request 10 of those. And you'll see that we are missing the Vibranium plates because we need to set that pattern up. And that's simple enough. It's just 4 Vibranium ingots to make a plate. Our other option is we could set it up as an item cast through Productive Metalworks. It's 3 ingots to make a plate. If you want to save yourself the ingot, you can absolutely set this up. I'm just going to do the crafting table recipe. And now if we come in and request our Vibranium ball bases, we'll be good because we have that craft now. So push start and watch it happen. Make sure to turn auto sort on to speed it up. But we now have our ball bases, so step 1 is done. Now for step 2, it's going to be some create. So we're going to place 3 depots down and put some deployers down on top of these. Then we'll go ahead and put some gearboxes behind here to connect those all up. We'll use one of our electric motors and then we'll just throw a point on it. And you could always run the power from underneath here as well if you wanted to, which honestly I'll do. There we go. And then the same setup here. 2 modular routers for each one. Barrel, pattern provider. You only need 1 cable coming down to connect all 3. You want to use some type of wrench and right click on the bottom of these pattern providers. You could probably do it from the top too. But you want those to have the arrow pointing down. So that way, when you request something, it's only going to send the contents of it to the barrel underneath and not to one of the other pattern providers. I don't know if it's necessarily needed to do this, but you might as well do it just to be safe. So for this step, we have two separate recipes that we need to set up. The first one is going to be a Vibranium nugget into a shaft into a Vibranium ball base to make the Vibranium ball mechanism, while the second one is a Vibranium ingot with a shaft and the ball base to make the ancient Vibranium ball mechanism. And we're going to set both of them up because it doesn't hurt to have both. It's all the same machines anyway. To make this so it works with applied energistics and using modular routers, we need to do each one of these steps as an individual pattern. The one thing you're going to have to do as you're setting this up is actually run it, because when you place the ball base down and you give it a nugget, you're going to notice you get these unfinished Vibranium ball bases, and it says recipe sequence progress 1 of 3 and tells you the next step of it. You need these in order to make the patterns for it. So once you have it, just right click here so it's on your favorites, so that way you can just pull from it and then move on to the next step. So we'll put our unfinished here, give it a shaft, and we now have our progress 2 of 3 for the unfinished Vibranium ball base. So we save it over here, and then we'll place that one down here and give it the other ball base. That is now our Vibranium ball mechanism. So now we just need to do the exact same thing for our ancient one. So ball base down, Vibranium ingot, save it to our favorites, put it into the next step, save it to our favorites, put it into the last step, and save that to our favorites, even though we can put the recipe up for that, but we can't for these unfinished ones. So now we'll come into our pattern encoding, go to processing patterns, put a ball base in with a nugget, and we get our unfinished Vibranium. And then for the next step, it is the unfinished Vibranium with a shaft to get the second step. And then for the last one, it is the second step with the ball base to get the Vibranium ball mechanism. And then we just do the same thing again. Ball base with the Vibranium ingot to get the unfinished Vibranium ball base, but make sure this is the right one because this is going to be for ancient. And then we use the unfinished with the shaft to get the second step. And then we use the second one with the ball base to get the ancient Vibranium ball mechanism. And then just come to the pattern providers here, and we put the first steps in the first one, second steps in the second one, and the third step in the third one. So now we're going to set up our modular routers, and we are going to pull from the barrel and put that into the first modular router. And then we're going to send to the deployer, and then open this up, and we want to send the nugget or the ingot to the deployer. And then for our other sender module, we want to send that to the depot, and we want to send the Vibranium ball base. And then we want to use a puller and pull from the depot, and we want to pull the unfinished Vibranium ball base for the first step. And the way I was able to get this to work was to set this to match item components, match all. This otherwise it kind of started bugging out and wasn't pulling the right thing. So that's how I got it to work. I don't know why, because this has like a health bar, so it's match item damage, but it just needs that specific match. But then we go ahead and put the puller in here, and then we take the sender and we send that back to the pattern provider. So now if we come into our system here, we can request each one of these. And so that didn't work because we actually need two separate pullers for that. So for the first one that we set up, remove one, so it's only a specific end, and that should now work. There we go. I just had the wrong one on each one. And then we should just need a single sender. So let's try that again. So step one, we'll do this one first. Wait for that to finish. All right, it's done. Let's do the other step one. And just make sure they both finish. Perfect. And now we just do the same thing with the other modular routers. Pull from the barrel, send to the deployer, and we'll send the shaft, send to the depot. Make sure it's a whitelist, set to match item components, match all, and we're sending the step 1, and we're going to need to set up 2 different senders for this because we need to split the different steps. So this is the second one for the ancient Vibranium ball base. This is where it can get a little confusing. It's just making sure that you're setting it up correctly for the damage amounts, and it's for the regular one and the ancient. And make sure to put those in the correct modular router. And then set up our puller modules to pull from the depot here. And then we set these up to the second step. So one for the first one. And the other one for the second one. Make sure to set up the filtering right. Put those into the second modular router. And then use the sender to send back to the pattern provider. And then we'll set it up for the third one as well. Pull from the barrel. Send to the deployer. We're sending a ball base. Send to the depot for 2 of them. Set up whitelist, match item component, and match all. And we are sending step 2 for both of them. Then we set up a puller from the depot for 2 of them. And this one we actually just need a regular whitelist, and we can probably just use a single for the regular ball mechanism and the ancient ball mechanism. That in the second modular router. Then take a sender and send that back to the pattern provider. And we should be able to come here now and request both of our ball mechanisms. So let's request an ancient ball mechanism. Great. And now let's request the regular ball mechanism. And that's working great. The only thing you want to be careful of is not requesting both of them at the same time, because it's going to try and do them at the same time and it might backfill. One of the ways you could fix that is to come into your pattern providers here and set these to blocking mode to do not push crafting ingredients if the inventory contains a pattern input, and then also set this to block if target contains anything. Do that for all of these. And then you can request both crafts at the same time, but it won't send them in until one of them is complete. Just to make sure you don't get anything stuck, because it might send the, well, I guess it would work, because this is the only one that's different, and that's the first step. So it might just get a little confused, and you might end up getting more regular ball mechanisms versus ancient, or vice versa, depending on how it sends it through. But it should work out in the end. They're different enough. And then for the next step, it would be setting up the Sol factory and the infusion factory here. For the infusion factory, we don't have anything set up yet because this is where our tumblestone comes in. And we'll get to that towards the end. Excuse me, sir. I am trying to talk. Anyway, we're not going to use this infusion factory until close to the end once we have everything else set up. But for the Sol factory, I already have it set up for all the different patterns here, because this makes our half apricorns for all 3, as well as our bits that we need. And this is just simply sending those in here to get crafted. It's very easy. But that's going to be it for this side. So for our next step, we're going to move over here. And what we're going to be working on over here is making the Vibranium ball lid. So we need to send molten Vibranium into a spout to a blank ball lid. And then we need to use a deployer to put the bits onto the ball lid. So in order to set that up, we need productive metalworks. So we're going to need to set up a foundry, and I'm going to make it a little different than that one over there. I'm going to make this one a 2x2 so it can hold a bit more, and I changed the color to kind of match Vibranium. It's cyan, but it works. I'm going to go ahead and place the drain right here, put our controller here, and our capacitor here. Then we're just going to fill this up with some glass, and we just want to see how many slots this has. So this has 8 slots, And we need 9, so we need to go up 1 more. And there we go. We just, like I said, we just need this to fit 9 total. Then we're going to want to go ahead and set up 2 depots here. One of these is going to have a spout, and the other one is going to have a deployer. And then we'll just go ahead and put 3 gearboxes here because we're going to need those anyway. Throw our motor right here. And then we just set up our pattern providers, barrels, and modular routers. And then the last thing we're going to need is some fluid pipes. I think it's what? Logistical? No. Mechanical pipes. We're going to want to pull from the drain here and send it over to the spout. Make sure to set that to a pool. So that way when we make the molten vibranium, it's going to be sent through here into the spout. So now for the patterns, we are making the vibranium ball lid. So we need a blank ball lid. And then we're going to need the molten vibranium, which is just going to be 9 vibranium ingots. And then that's going to get us the step 1 to the vibranium ball lid. So let's put all of this in here to see what that step is so we can add it to our favorites like we did over here. Place our ingots in. That all gets transferred over here to the spout. And that's 810 millibuckets, exactly what we needed. Let's put our blank ball lid down. And there we go. We have our unfinished vibranium ball lid. So now we can set up the pattern. Processing pattern. We're going to put vibranium ingots in. And a middle mouse button to change the quantity. Set that to 9. And then that's going to create our unfinished vibranium ball lid. And we can go ahead and put that pattern right here. Oh, that pattern, not the actual thing. Now, if we come over here and we place our unfinished there, let's grab some bits. And like I said, we already have this pattern set up. Place those in the hand. And now we have our vibranium ball lid. So we just need to set up the pattern for that. Unfinished vibranium plus a bit equals ball lid. And now we just need to set up the modular routers, just like we did over there. Connect that up to our system, and let's go ahead and request it. Let's request 10 of them. And make sure to put our speed upgrades in. And right here is a perfect example of why you want to set this to blocking. Because this modular router is now completely full of vibranium. So we'd have to wait for that to fill up. And if we ran out to the point where it couldn't hold anymore, we'd have a huge issue. Luckily, this pipe here has a massive storage capability. And we forgot to have it send the ball lid. All right, I fixed it. There we go. And we've got our 10 lids. I just forgot to put that blank ball lid sender in. But that's why we test it. So now we're going to do something that I haven't done yet, and we're going to set up the tumblestone. And for that, we're going to use the metallurgic infuser here. But now we need to set this up just like we set up our infusers down below. This is going to be an advanced pattern. So come into our pattern here. And for our ancient vibranium ball lid, we're going to put 1 tumblestone in, which is going to give us 800 millibuckets, and 2 vibranium ball lids to get 2 ancient vibranium ball lids. Since we get 800 from the tumblestone, we can do 2. So let's clear that out. Let's drag our tumblestone in here, and let's set this to 2 and set our output to 2. Oh, not 1002. And now we want to set up our side config for this. We're going to do extra on the top, input output for the pattern provider. So we use our advanced pattern encoding. Put that in. We're going to tell that to target the up face for our tumblestone and leave this one normal. Pull that out. Put that new pattern in here, and let's go ahead and try and request it. So we want 2 of them. Let's see, is it going to work? Where are we stuck? Did I not set this? Okay, I didn't set the pattern up correctly over here. I forgot to add the blank ball lid. So let's just fix that real quick. Put our 2 ball lids in there. All right, let's come back over. See if this works. It works. Awesome. So we can set up the pattern for both of our Vibranium, Unobtainium, and AllTheModium to just make sure we have that in here. Ooh, actually for the ancient one, we don't even need tumblestone for that. That's kind of nice. That one is just our ancient Vibranium with the molten Unobtainium. So that's actually going to be really easy. But for our AllTheModium ball, we do need to do this setup. So we'll just make that pattern real quick. Move that out, put our tumblestone in, turn that to 2, turn that to 2, pull that, make our advanced pattern by sending this to the up face. Cool. We've got that done. So then for our last step, it's just putting the ball together. So it's going to be 3 deployers of 3 depots for both the ancient and the regular Vibranium ball. Because keep in mind over here, this setup is where we're doing the apricorn ball lids. So we don't need more than one. This will just do all of them. Because for the ancient, we need the apricorn ball lid here. And that is just putting stamped stripped apricorn logs into a saw. And the stamped stripped apricorn logs are being done with a deployer with a stripped apricorn log, which is right here. And I went ahead and set up some bees to farm stripped apricorn. And we're already at 20k. So we've got plenty of these, which just means we need these 3 more deployers. So then we just need to do the same thing we did over here for the final step of putting the ball together, because we have everything else. So step 1 is going to be the ball mechanism with the lid. Step 2 is going to be the first stage with a blank ball lid. Then step 3 is going to be the second stage with an iron rod. And then for our ancient ball, it's going to be the Vibranium ancient ball lid with the apricorn wood ball and an iron rod. All right, let's go ahead and request our craft for both Vibranium balls and make sure this all runs smoothly. We will start with our regular Vibranium balls and do 10 of them. And we're done. 10 regular Vibranium balls, so let's do that for ancient as well. It's looking like something might have gotten stuck. Yeah, right here. This got stuck. Got our ball lids. Ancient Vibranium up because I didn't set these all to the blocking. So just make sure that you go through and just set these all to blocking so none of these get stuck. And let's try that again. Let's go ahead and make 9 of them. Yeah, just need to make sure to set all of these to blocking. The only one that you can get away with not doing that is this setup here. Awesome. That's done. Great. So it's time to move on to our Unobtainium balls. And to do that, it's more of the same. We're going to need the ball mechanism for Unobtainium and the ancient ball mechanism. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's making the base, putting a nugget in, adding a shaft, adding the ball base to get the regular one, while the ancient one is the ingot instead of a nugget. So I'm going to go ahead and set those up by just using the ones that we already have set up here. Because the Unobtainium uses Vibranium, it'll work out. And it's not like I'm going to need thousands of these. I'm just going to need a handful of them. So I'm just going to set that up real quick because at this point you should know how to do this. I think I over-explained it for you. Okay, so I got it all set up. Let's see if it works. Request 5 of these. Perfect. Let's request 5 of these. Awesome. And since we have this set up on blocking mode, that shouldn't be an issue. We really could have just set it all up over there. You're lucky I wanted to show you guys how to do this, because that would have been a lot easier than doing this all again. But, I mean, it's kind of fun, right? So now the next step is the actually making the ball. And to do that, we need the Unobtainium ball lids. and the ancient Unobtainium ball lids. For the regular one, it's using the Vibranium ball lid, pouring molten Unobtainium on top of it, and then putting the bits on. So you guessed it, we're just gonna reuse this, because why not, right? We can wait a little extra long for it. If you really want to speed this up and you want it to be as fast as possible, then yes, go ahead and set up this all again for Unobtainium so it has its own setup for it. But I'm okay with waiting a little extra time because it's not going to save that much time. So I'm going to make these patterns and we'll test it out when I'm done. All right, set up. Let's, oh, wrong one. Let's give this a shot. Let's do 3 of them. All right, that worked. That one was a little sketchy. I think it worked fine, but it might get backed up. So if it does, I'll just make another one and have it do 2 separate things. All right, let's see if I did that right. We'll make 2 of them. Cool. So we have the 4 there, and now we just need to assemble it. It's 2 of the lids with an iron rod and the ball mechanism to make the regular one, and the exact same thing for that. So you guessed it, I'm just gonna add it to these last 3 here and we'll test it out when I'm done. All right, they're all set up. Let's make sure it works. Unobtainium, let's do our ancient ball. Done. And our regular Unobtainium ball. That's awesome. It works. We've now got Unobtainium and Vibranium, regular and ancient balls, which means we're 1 step closer to the Pika Star. That's awesome, because these things are insane. It is a 10 times capture rate for regular Pokemon, and a 30 times for legendaries, which once we get our first Pika Star, we can get one. That's going to be so cool. And we're 1 step closer to the ancient origin ball or the master ball, because, well, they're the same thing. It's just the ancient version of the master ball. But to get that, we're going to need the Unobtainium AllTheModium alloy ingots to be able to craft these. But luckily, we already have all of our tumblestone now, so we'll be able to set this whole process up on a later episode, because this is going to be a bit. Now let's go try one of these bad boys out. I want to see if I can just chuck this at a high level Pokemon and capture it with no issue. There we go. What is that? 48? Not going to throw any hits at it. Just going to throw the ball. Easy. So that's going to be it for today's episode. Next episode, we are going to get our hands on a couple things so we can battle some gym leaders and keep working on our Pika Star. I hope you learned something new this episode. I had a ton of fun setting this up and figuring this all out because I'm very new to Create, and being able to use something like modular routers to automate it and even set up patterns for each individual step was really, really cool. It might be a little overkill, and I'm sure there's probably an easier way to do this, but for now, I like this. I think it's a fun way to mix Create in with some tech mods. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later. Oh yeah, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. Like, seriously, especially if you made it this far. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, bye.